So, we already discussed about Veda, the Vedic knowledge, and some sections of Veda, namely Samhita, Mantras, Brahmana and Aranyakas, which is on the first sheet of your booklet. And according to disciplic succession scholars, Vedic scholars, these evidence of Vedic scriptures are known as prasthana. This will all come in your lesson too, so don't bother writing Sanskrit names if they are difficult for you. Prasthana, traya means three. Prasthana means establishment of knowledge. So this prasthana traya, or establishment of knowledge in three ways, that is known as Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. Shruti means that which is heard. Vedas, even today, up to today, even though the books came later, printed and all, written and then printed, Vedas are always heard and repeated. The process for learning Veda, at least the text, is to hear and repeat. One says, the other repeats. And because as the human society got degraded from age to age, there was necessity to write them into books. The intelligence level was going down. So Vyasadeva, he did the compilation, division and writing. You have more booklets? Finish.
One more.
The chart? 15 given out. Oh. You only made 15. Maybe those who are close by can just share one, and then those who didn't get give this to the gentleman up there in the couch. Yeah, you can see collected. What about yourself? You can share with someone. Where is?
She has one.
You have one? Alright. Who doesn't have? Everyone has now? Oh, you don't have. Right. Can you see the chart?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So when we make more copies, we'll do. So we have Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. Shruti means heard, and Vedic text was always heard and repeated. Even till today and forever, the system of learning the text will be not having it written like that. Rather, one says, another one repeats. Of course, we are having translation and purpose, and then that way we are learning. So we look in the book. Even in the book, if you want to learn the verses, which are Vedic texts, the best system is not having pieces of paper and then looking at them and grueling them inside the ear. Best is a person chants it. Then one may wonder how he would chant it. Since we all have small brain now, maybe the person who chants it can look in the book. This is the system Prabhupada introduced in the Gurukul. The students, for the verses and text, they should hear and repeat. The process was, the teacher will say it once, word by word he would say, and the students will repeat it 9 times. And then, when that was done nicely, then the teacher will say it once and the student will say it twice. And that way it is memorized. And there is a system in our person, in our subtle body, which yields to that system. There is already a program there. So if you do it that way, then it will automatically start working. Because in the Vedic system, the knowledge is not coming from outside. You are not earning knowledge. Rather, you are removing your ignorance. All this which is here is inside every one of us. It's in our consciousness. It is there. It is just like some files lost into some directory in the computer, that you don't know the drive or path to get to them. The drive or path to get to that is Tadvidi Pranipadana Pariprasnena Sevaya. You serve a person who has learnt already, and by service, humbly one inquires. No challenge, but inquiry. To know. Then when that person is pleased, then when you follow this method, and by that method what happens is that the knowledge is manifested from one's heart. Ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya. The eye is given. Jnana anjana, the eye of knowledge, the torchlight of knowledge. But the knowledge is not given. Knowledge is there. But some darkness is covering. So some flashlight is put on. Then you can see. That's all. So, but mundane knowledge or modern, so-called modern knowledge is not something that is in you. It's given. So this is the difference between real knowledge and avidya. Avidya means, vidya means knowledge. Avidya means ignorance. But sometimes, lot of informations of ignorance is also termed as knowledge, especially in modern days. Ignorance of one's constitutional position, ignorance of one's understanding of the super soul, ignorance of one's understanding of the supreme controller. It gets divided into various departments of so-called knowledge, which you call sociology, psychology, zoology, thisology, thatology, and all that is given, and one works with his brain to get all that stuck in the head. That's called education. But brain work or work of intelligence has nothing to do with knowledge. Brain work has something to do with remembering, memory, that's all. But knowledge is coming from the consciousness, from the heart, not from the brain. The scientists think that the brain had many dins, then one learns more. If you take a goat brain and you see there is more dins than Einstein's brain. So goat should be more intelligent than Einstein, which we don't see. In fact, it is. Because the goat doesn't go to the university to get food. So it is more intelligent than anybody. He just goes and eats. You have seen goats and sheep. They go sometime to the cliff and eat some grass. On the other side of the cliff, they never fall. So they are more intelligent than men. It is true. By instinct, they are intelligent for eating, sleeping, mating and defending. And if a person goes for 20 years to the university and does the same thing, eating, sleeping, mating and defending, what is the difference? There is no difference. So what makes difference between animal and human is dharma. Dharmehi bina pashuhi samanaha. Dharma means goal of life. So knowledge is coming, knowledge is there in the soul, in the consciousness. Soul is full of knowledge. Satchidananda Vigraha. Chit means knowledge. But what happens, its association with matter has covered it by ignorance. So by proper association, a torchlight of knowledge. The torchlight is coming. So then you can see the knowledge. So all of you have this whole chart inside you and the details of it. You believe, you don't believe, this is true. But if you simply remove the cap, just like a drink, it's got a cap. So you remove the cap and the drink comes. But if you drink with the cap, then it doesn't come. So the university knowledge is trying to drink with the cap. But Vedic knowledge is just remove the cap. Once the cap is open, then the knowledge is right there. Every one of us, every living being. In animal stage, plant stage, it is covered more. In human stage, it is less covered, minimum covered. So for human, Brahma Jigyasa, ask question. And then you find out. It's all there. It's not that if you have to memorize this whole set of books, 140 volumes. Nobody does like that. You can think. Nobody does like that. Nobody sits down and memorizes 140 volumes of books for getting knowledge. No. All that happens is you remove ignorance. You remove the false false ego pursuit, and then knowledge is manifest. So the system in the Vedic scripture is that the teacher speaks and the student repeats. That is called Shruti. Of course, when the intelligence got very degraded later, Vyasadeva, for our purpose, he put them into writing. So Shruti means that which is heard. Smriti means that which is remembered. Smriti comes from the word smaran. Smriti means that is remembered. And Nyaya, Nyaya means logic. Very simple meaning is logic. Now Shruti is what aspect of the Vedic literature? What? And Smriti is how aspect of the Vedic literature. And Nyaya is the why aspect of the Vedic literature. What, how, and why. Now in this, you see Shruti is on the top, Smriti and Nyaya are in the bottom. Now Smriti and Nyaya should always confirm what is in the Shruti. Ultimately, Shruti is the authority. Shruti is like mother. If you want to know who is the father, you ask mother. So Shruti is the mother. Veda Mata, it is called. Veda Mata. Mother Veda. That is Shruti. Father is Krishna. So Veda points out to Krishna as father. Vedascha sarvair ahameva Veda. Smriti is how factor. And Nyaya is why factor. There are two ways of classifying these books. The Smriti and Nyaya. Sometimes, if you can look into the next page, the first page and the third page together, sometimes Vedic scholars have defined, like you see on the top, Samhita, Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka on the first sheet of your paper, together with Upanishads, which is on the, you can see if you just flip your booklet, you will find Upanishads. So Upanishads, up to Upanishads, some scholars define it as Shruti. And that line of description also they describe, if you see in your booklet, we have Puranas. Puranas and Bhagavad Gita. They describe Bhagavad Gita and Puranas are also as Smriti because it is remembered and spoken later or written later. And Nyaya, that particular line what I am mentioning, they take only the Vedanta Sutras, which is in the Upanishad sheet of paper under Darsanas. You see the sixth one there is shown Uttara Mimamsa by Vyasa Vedanta Sutras. They classify that as Nyaya, only that as Nyaya. Now there are other scholars who have defined Smritis as given in the chart and in your sheet of paper there, Vedangas, the 6 limbs of the Vedas and the different books connecting to that as Smritis, and anything concerning Upanishads and philosophy, all that as Nyaya. These are two ways of classification. As far as fresh students to this course are concerned, we simply have to understand that there are 3 prasthanas, Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. And Shruti is Veda up to Upanishads, and then Smriti is whatever is remembered from the Vedas and written into or compiled into a text for knowing how to do certain things from the Vedas. And Nyaya means why we are doing those things. If you understand this much for this course, it will be enough. Because Vedic study is not something that in 6 classes one will just get everything. Because a lot of ignorance has to be removed. If it was just giving, we could just pump it. But unless levels of ignorance are removed, the subject matters won't manifest up. It's like a pot of water. the water is in the bottom. You keep putting stones, then as stones go in, the water comes up. So few stones have to be put in for all the water to come up. So for now, we just take it like this. Now we go to the next step. Next step is, in your booklet you will find Vedangas. Come to that page, Vedangas. It's got 6 categories in them. Veda means knowledge, Anga means limb. There are limbs of Veda. Now as we see, you have the Samhita, Rig Samhita, Yajur Samhita, Sama Samhita and Atharva Samhita, within which you have got many aspects like Brahmanas, Mantras, Aranyakas, etc. This whole thing is all in text, and it's all heard, and it's all mostly in poetry, 60 to 80% in poetry, and it's in Sanskrit language. So within this there are informations on 6 systems of study, 6 kinds of study. These are known as Vedanga. The first one is known as Shiksha. Shiksha means phonetic science, because this is all sound. You see, alphabet is later, writing is different, but the sound is there. Always they learn it like this. The teacher sat there and he said something, and then you repeat it. So when you are saying and repeating like that, they had to understand the sound. So there are portions in the Veda which describe Shiksha. Shiksha means sound. What different sounds are there? That is described in that. So that science is taken from the Veda, and the rishis, the great saintly people, they remember it, Smriti, and they wrote Smritis on it. So they wrote a Smriti, there are many Smritis. I have given just some examples there. Panini Smriti, Sarvasammata Smriti, Siddhanta Smriti. These are Shiksha Smritis. Shiksha means the sound. The next one is Vyakarana. Now you have syllables, you have made some sound, and there is a grammar by which the sound combine to make the words, and the words combine, they make compound words, and they make phrases, and the phrases make sentences, and all these rules are there in the Veda. The rishis remember them, and they write separate smriti for that subject matter. That's known as Vyakarana. So Vyakarana, also the same great soul Panini, he has written Vyakaran Smritis, and also Patanjali is a great Vyakaran. I'm just giving 1-2 examples here. There are unlimited of them, so many of them. So then you go to the next one, which is Nirukti. Nirukti means context. Now you have the grammar, so now you have to know what is the context, what is the meaning. It is not exactly like dictionary, it is more than dictionary. It is in which context the meaning has to be taken in which place. That Smriti, Yaska is a very famous person who wrote Nirukti, Nigandu, is also known as Nigandu. So that is Nirukti. Nirukti means dictionary, you can say. Then Chandas. Now because it's all poetry, it has got meter. So Chandas is meter. And right in the Vedas, in many places, Chandas is discussed. So the Rishi, he takes that and he puts it into a Smriti. So then you have there Pingala. Pingala is very famous Chandas Smriti. And Nidhana. These are just 2 examples. Then you go to the next one, Jyotish. Now you have learned the language. The next thing is the time. What time to perform sacrifice, what time to study, what time to get up, what time to sleep, what time to eat, everything is time. Because the world is just divided into time and space. So time is very important. That is known as Jyotisha. Parashara is the most famous in Jyotisha. That is time, which includes astronomy and astrology. And astrology does not simply mean advising you whether you can marry this girl or not. That is just 2% of Jyotisha. 98% is time science. From atom time all the way up to Mahavishnu's time. and the orbits of planets, their timing, timing of seasons and climates, timing of growth of plant, animal, human. All this is time science. It is all coming under Jyotisha. Then you have finally Kalpa. Kalpa means ritual or ceremony. The whole Vedic life is based on sacrifices according to orders of life. Brahmachari has his sacrifice, Grihastha has his, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis, Brahmins, Vaishyas, Sudras, they all have their lifestyle. It is all based on sacrifice. So how to perform these various sacrifices? That is known as Kalpa. Now, unlike the other 5, where I have given the name of authors of Smritis, here under Kalpa, I have given the categories of books, namely Srauta, Grihya, Dharma and Sulbha. Because, just because of the want of space in there, and we couldn't get everything together in one thing. So in your lesson, when I give you the lesson, we will have more details on that. So Srauta Kalpas, Smritis, are for common sacrifices, community sacrifices, community life. Then Grihya Sutras are for household life. When the man gets married, how to perform the marriage, how to match the candidates, from there, starting from there, how to do betrothal, how to do the negotiation, all this is there in the Veda. So that is Grihya. Then once they get married, then they have to conceive. So how to conceive a child, what date, what time, what manner, that's all there. And then once the conception is there, then how to keep the pregnancy. Then how to deliver the child. On delivery, what do you do? After delivering the child, how to purify that body. After purifying that body, then how to keep him in and how to get him out of the house and how to grow him up, how to give him education. All this is up to death and after death. Somebody is dead, what to do with that? What to do with that body? That also is there. So this is all. So why don't you come here? You can become more comfortable.
No, I'm not here.
You're right.
Yes.
So that is Grihya Sutras. All these are written in sutras. Sutra means a small combination of words and phrases which contain lot of meanings. This is the definition of sutra. So you have Shiksha Sutras, Vyakaran Sutras, Nirukti Sutras, Sutras on all this subject. Then what happens, somebody else will write a commentary on that. There are commentaries on each of these subjects. Phonetic science, grammar, etc., etc. So in Kalpa, you have 4 classifications. Srauta Sutra is community life, and Grihya Sutra is household life, individual unit, and then Dharma Sutra is the division of order and division of Varna. What is the duty of a Brahmin? How he performs that duty? In the Veda you will see, it says Brahmin shall study and teach. Then the Kalpa Sutra, Dharma Sutra will say how Brahmin studies, where he studies, and what he studies. What are the subject matter one can study? Somebody wants to do, say, a painting. Now, how does he do a painting? The subject matter is there. Or somebody wants to cook. How does he cook? Where does he collect the ingredients for cooking? What fire he uses? All that is there in the Dharma Sutras. These are all coming under Kalpa. Then Sulbha. Sulbha is construction of altars and fireplaces and temples and worshipable. Say you have a ceremony, you have to worship some shalagram. So where to keep the shalagram? How to make the seat for that? How to make the pots and different utensils for bathing the deity? All this is Sulbha. So this is Kalpa. And under Srauta, Grihya, Dharma and Sulbha, There are various rishis who have written their sutras, and that I will give you details when you get to your lesson number 2. You will get it there. So these are known as Vedangas. Generally, when a person says Smriti, he means these Smritis. Smriti on sound, grammar, context, meter, time and ritual. That's what they generally mean. Specifically when you say, then you can take the Puranas as Smritis, Bhagavad Gita as Smritis. There also. What is remembered and spoken is Smriti. I'm just trying to repeat the same thing. Smriti means what is heard. Smriti means what is remembered. So except up to Upanisads, everything is Smriti. Nowadays, even Veda is Smriti because it is written. Remembered and written in a piece of paper or in a book. No more people are practicing that type of speaking and remembering. But if you want to learn the text, that is the technique. But today, Veda means you go to some big bookstore, you have Veda, yes. Motilal Banarsidas, they have a big book, as thick as this table. That's Rig Veda. You need 2 people to open the page. So that is Veda. But that means it is a Smriti now, because it's been remembered and it is all written down. And nobody is remembering the whole thing. And there are many branches of the Vedas, and in each branch they have specialized in all these 6 kind of angas. The branches came because there are many teachers who learned it from Brahma through Narada down there, and then thousands of branches came. Rig Veda has so many branches, Samaveda has so many branches. Some of these branches are not even present on the planet now. Only they are by name. In the books you find that such and such branch is there, but you don't find them. But some branches are still there. So this is about branches, shakas, known as shakas. These are more detailed studies, so I have left them out for this particular class. Then we come to actually we can go to the agamas from there. It will be easier to understand. So now you have the 6 Vedangas. If you go down there, then you will find agamas. In the next page, somewhere you will find your agamas. So agama. Gama comes from the word gati. Gama means going, and agama means which came forward from the Vedas. So Veda is there, the Vedangas are there, from there something comes forward. That is known as agama. Now here we have to see one thing, that always lifestyle in perfect standard of human civilization is divided into Varna Ashrama. Brahmin, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Sudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Priestly class, ruling class, mercantile class, working class, student, family man, retired man, and welfare man, mendicant, sannyasi. So this lifestyle in perfect platform of human life is always based on the understanding of 3 things known as matter, spirit and controller. So there is always worship of the controller, or understanding or dealing or transaction with the controller. Because the idea that everything here is just for my control is known as ignorance. Everything is controlled. Even the blinking of our eye is controlled. Some things are controlled by visible people like police, government, politicians, etc. And some are controlled by invisible people. Some are not visible to us, but they are there. Even our passing of stool is controlled. Mitra is one god. If he doesn't sanction, then you get constipated. So this way, every single thing, the flow of blood in the body, the flow of air in the body is all controlled, higher controllers are there. So this controlling subject matter was always dealt with in human civilization when they are perfect. If they were not perfect, then no. They never see any control. I am the control. Everything is done by me. So, there comes a necessity for different levels of understanding controllers. So, in the beginning level, the whole mass of human community, they understand energy, which is combination of elements in front of them. So, some agamas give information to think in that level. First of all, Veda means knowledge which is supplied to a person according to his various levels of understanding. So if somebody can only want to understand the energy, then that information is given in the agamas. So that is how agamas are coming. These agamas take information from the Vedas, from all those books up to now what we have discussed. They take information from there and they say how to please the controller and how to transact with that controller so that you can exist very nicely for whatever purpose you have. So that is agama. So energy or shakti, this agama is known as Shakta agama. Shakta comes from Shakti. Shakti means energy. So first level is they just understand energy. Second level is they understand that this energy is coming from one source which is very visible to the eye, which is sun, known as Pratyaksha Devata. A Devata who is visible, a controller who is visible. The sun is visible. So that is the next level of understanding. That agama is known as Saura agama. Saura comes from the word Surya. Surya means sun. Then you have next level is that from there, if one is going a little deeper, then he comes to understand there are controllers who control even this movement of sun. So it goes beyond that now. So that becomes, these are invisible controllers. These two are visible. The energy is visible. And then the source of energy is visible. And beyond that is the someone who is not visible. Ganapati. Gana means group. Group of elements are there. And these groups are controlled by some controllers, and those controllers are controlled by a chief, one chief. And that chief is known as Ganapati. The Ganapati, that agama is known as Ganapatya. Generally, people think Ganapati means this elephant-headed god. That he is one Ganapati. And there are many other Ganapatis. Ganapati is a category of controller. Gana means group, Pati means controller. Controller of group. So that is Ganapatya agama. Then, now you have transacted with the controller and you know that why. If you go up to there, then you get everything done. But the thing is, when time is ticking, you can see that everything is getting destroyed. So they have an understanding that somebody is there, in spite of all these controllers and everything, that somebody is destroying everything. Only when things are existing, you can go to the controller and get something. What happens if things are destroyed? So who is the destroyer? How to understand him, how to transact? That's Shiva, is the destroyer. So that agama is known as Shaiva agama. Comes from the word Shiva. Then, some people become even more inclined to find out more. Let's go more. So that is the source of everything. The source of energy, the source of sun, the source of the controller, and the source of destroyer. Who is that source? And he is Vishnu. So that agama is known as Vaikhanasa in the Vedic language. Vaikhanasa agama. These are 5 agamas which extol 5 deities mainly. Shakti is first, who is known as Durga, is a female goddess. Sometimes the Shaktas are impersonal, so they only see the energy. But sometimes they are little personal, so they have a personal form, personified form of the energy. Who is the controller of that? So that is Shakta religion, worship of Shakti. Then Surya, that is known as Saura religion. Then you have got Ganapatya religion. Somehow or other, this Ganapatya religion is very small now. It's somewhere in the remote corners of India, so it's not well known to outsiders. And Shaiva, of course, everybody knows that there are lot of people who worship Shiva based on agamas. And then Vishnu, Vaikhanasa agama. Within Vedic line, Vishnu is worshipped by Vaikhanasa agama. And they are known by this name: Shaivites, Vaishnavites, Ganapatiyas, Sauras, and Shaktas. These are main 5 agamas. Then there is another category of book which is also Smriti, which is known as Tantra Shastra. Now up till here, these books are meant for people who are qualified to learn and practice Vedas and Vedic life. And Lord Shiva, who is the god of destruction, he found that there are a lot of people who cannot actually come up to that standard of the Vedic expectation of study and practice. So he became very merciful. He authored, he spoke, he revealed Tantra Shastra. This Tantra is sometimes termed as non-Vedic because it is meant for people who cannot actually perform candidature, not bona fide candidates of Vedic study. So it is known as non-Vedic. In Tantra there are 2 sections. One is called right section, and is called the left section. So this left section is meant for, in both sections, the idea is people who cannot come to purified platform. Like they can't give up meat eating, they can't give up illicit sex, they can't give up gambling, and their religion has to include all those things very nicely, so they can somehow slowly, gradually come up from that. Somebody is there, he cannot give up smoking ganja. So a performance will be there in which he can to go and get ganja in a particular way and offer it in a particular way, which will be too difficult to do anyway. So then slowly he will feel the pinch of the difficulty of the ceremony, and he will finally give up smoking ganja. This just to give a crude example. So that principle is Tantra Shastra. In Tantra Shastra writes these deities, all these 5 deities, how to worship them for those people who are not very highly qualified. That is mentioned. And in the left, the same, using worship of these 5 deities, but for various heinous purposes, for killing and black magic and all kinds of that unmentionable thing. That is Tantra Shastra. So with that, the Vedic line, as far as ceremony and lifestyle is concerned, is completed. This is all Smriti. Now we go to the Upanishads. Upanishads, Upanishad, means to bring close to knowledge. Nishad means removal of ignorance. And Upa means to bring close. To bring somebody close to knowledge. That's known as Upanishad. Upanishads are 108 books. And these 108 books are found within the Vedas. Some Upanishads, of course, due to long time practice or dispractice, you can say, they are not found in the Vedas. But in any case, Veda means knowledge. So we can safely take that all Upanishads are in the Vedas. Most of them are anyway. Like we say, Aranyakas there. All the Aranyakas have Upanishads in them. And some of the Brahmanas, at their end, they also have Upanishads. Sometimes you even find Upanishads in the mantra portion. They are all interwoven in there. But later, the rishis, they have divided and kept the Upanishads separately. What are the 108 Upanishads in the list? That different scholars, they differ in taking 108. Some Upanishads accepted by one group of scholars may not be accepted as Upanishads by other group of scholars. They will call it, no, it is not an Upanishad, it's a mantra. These are all technical details. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada gives us list of 108 Upanishads in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, that is the final verdict as far as we are concerned. Because that's how one takes Vedic knowledge, from the spiritual master. So we have the list of 108 Upanishads. If somebody else do not accept it, we don't bother. So, 108 Upanishads, what are they? They are discussion between self-realized souls and self-realizing souls. Teacher and student. The self-realizing soul asks questions and the self-realized soul gives answers. This is in the form of conversation. These are 108 books. And now we go to next category of books known as Darsanas or commentaries. You can say systems of philosophy, Darshan. Now Darshan means seeing. Darshan means to see. So different seers, they saw the philosophy in the Upanishad. But when they saw it in various ways. Why they saw it in various ways? Again, to cater to the demand of different levels of conditioned souls. So these are known as 6 systems of philosophy. Shad Darshan. Shad means 6. Darshan means philosophy or seeing the philosophy. They are known as, the first one is Nyaya. These are all written in form of sutras. So Gautama is the composer of Nyaya Sutras. Nyaya simply means logic. As we already told, Nyaya. This whole thing is Nyaya, but this particular class is known as Nyaya. Then Vaiseshika. Vaiseshika word comes from Vishesha, means special logic. That was Kannada. He wrote the Vaiseshika Sutras. Then you have Sankhya. Kapila wrote the Sankhya Sutras. Now here the Kapila is different from the son of Devahuti, the incarnation of Krishna Kapila. That Kapila comes in the Bhagavatam. This is another Kapila. Then Yoga, that was done by Patanjali, the same Patanjali who wrote the grammar and Shiksha. He wrote the Yoga Sutras. Then you have Purva Mimamsa by Jaimini, and which is also known as Karma Mimamsa, and Uttara Mimamsa or Brahma Mimamsa by Vyas. Now, Nyaya, just to simply say what each one says, because the question